I'm Edward Warfield, the publisher of Citybiz, and I'm honored today to interview Squire Servance, who is the founder and managing partner of Syridex Bio. Welcome, Squire.
Thank you for having me, Edwin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you provide an introduction to Syridex Bio?
Absolutely. So Syridex Bio is an impact-driven life science-focused investment firm. Our focus is to invest in therapies that address the needs of the underserved communities. And so we were generally founded on the belief that everyone deserves a fair and just opportunity to have a healthy life. And for too long, in my perspective, deep inequities have existed in a variety of dimensions across the healthcare industry. And while I think the pandemic to some extent kind of pulled the veil back on health inequities and health disparities and brought it to the forefront, I just think progress remains far too slow. And so what we're trying to do at Syridex Bio is to address that gap in the market by investing in diseases that treat disease, investing in therapies that treat diseases that disproportionately impact the underserved communities. And by financing the development of drugs and treatments in that space, and particularly around the world's greatest health disparities, we're convinced that we can accelerate health equity globally and achieve strong financial returns for our investors.
So your career included stints at Repligen and Baxter. Can you share some of the highlights of your career?
Oh, yes. Well, highlights. I think I'll go back to, I always grew up wanting to be a doctor, right? And so this is good context because my majors in undergrad were biomedical engineering and cell biology and neuroscience. And I ended up, clearly I didn't go to med school, but I ended up going to law school and business school, and I became a patent attorney in this space at Morgan Lewis. I practiced there for a number of years in a variety of different technologies, but also primarily in life sciences. And I transitioned in-house and worked at a variety of companies at Dr. Reddy's, at Baxter's, where I was attorney for their $2 billion pharma business. And then most recently, I was at Repligen Corporation, which is a public bioprocessing company. And I think in all those definitely in-house experience, I did a significant amount of transactional work and deals, and whether it be product acquisitions, company acquisitions, or collaborations agreements. And I got a lot of exposure into that space. So to some extent, this was integral in leading me to what I'm doing now, where I not just necessarily working for a company doing this, I had my own firm solely focused on doing these type of deals and accelerating health equity in that space.
And so what was the impetus to really get you started on Syridex Bio? I mean, was there one, hey, I got to start this. This is the time.
So it's funny. So it grew over time. I've had this idea for a life sciences investment firm since I was at the law firm. I love being able to do deals. I love being on the forefront of understanding new technologies. And I felt like a great way to do that was being a VC or a PE and investment spacing, because I think definitely when you're a patent attorney or doing deals, you get to see some of these novel technologies. I think over the years, I nurtured that idea for this investment firm. And I think over the last couple of years, with respect to kind of health equity, health inequities, and the disparities that we started to see, I saw a gap in the market and an opportunity to kind of leverage the capitalism of kind of the investment arm to fuel health equity in a way that hopefully can help close some of these health disparity gaps. And so I think I've had the idea for the firm for some time, but the market opportunity and gap really became in clear focus over the last couple of years.
And how did the pandemic impact health inequities?
I mean, it's a good question. I think the pandemic brought health inequities to the forefront, right? So I don't think it did anything new about it, except now it's on TV. It's hard to, when you see, we have a pandemic and you start to see that racial and ethnic minorities have higher rates of hospitalization, higher death rates, higher rates of infection, right? And it's hard for the media to not cover that. And so I think what it did was really just bring it to the forefront. Now everyone can see it and then are talking about it more. And I think you'll see pharma companies, investment firms, other people out there, the government, they're now talking more about health equity or health inequities, however you want to describe it. And I think the pandemic really just brought things to the forefront and making people more knowledgeable that this is an issue and it's a growing issue.
And so, what is your approach to investment targets?
What we try to do, and I think this is what we're different than most firms, investment firms, is that we look at disparities first. That's where we focus. We have a kind of a set up process by which we look at disparities and trying to figure out where is the greatest disparities that are out there. And once we kind of identify those disparities, we then begin to look at the innovation profile. Is there a lack of innovation in this space, right? And if there's a big disparity, and if we believe there's a lack of innovation, lack of R&D investment going into this area, that's our sweet spot. And that's how we begin starting to identify opportunities. And, obviously, we'll scale the world. We'll look at different opportunities where we can accelerate, invest in, particular programs that are going through clinical development in that specific disease area. But one of the also things we'll take a look at is, ensuring that the products we're looking at have market access. Because it's one thing to have a novel product come to market. It's a totally another discussion to ensure that that novel therapy or drug can get to the people that need it the most. And so we try to kind of those 3 points, we'll look at the disparities, the innovation or lack of innovation, and then we'll also kind of look at market access. And then we start to identify some opportunities that way.
And so who are some of the major impact investors addressing health inequity?
So I think over the last couple years, you've seen a lot more focus, right? And I have a couple names that come to mind here, but you'll have your broad buckets, like your big pharma, right? I think like J&J has an Impact Ventures, Merck Impact Fund, Merck I believe does as well. Then you have some more of the small. I think Adjuvant Capital, which spun out of I want to say it was part of the Gates Foundation, I believe, or spun out from there. They focus on global health equity. And so you have some really strong players in that space. And I think it's going to continue to grow. I think it's my belief we're in the early stages of a burgeoning landscape of opportunities or folks where you're going to see more investment into this space. I think from our perspective, we have probably a unique strategy as far as how we go about doing this and focusing primarily on therapies, not necessarily on digital health and things like that. Because I think you'll see the companies that are out there, the big companies that are out there doing this, they'll have a somewhat differentiated approach to kind of going after addressing this opportunity or addressing this issue. But yeah, I think there's a number of firms out there, and I think I touched on a few of those that are really trying to make an impact in this space.
And what are some of the novel therapies that are on your radar?
So for a variety of reasons, I won't give specifics of some of the novel therapies we're looking at because some of them we're actively in discussions around. But what I will say is this. We're looking at opportunities currently, and a lot of it's going to be in the autoimmune disorder space. So we're looking at novel therapies that treat lupus, sarcoidosis, myositis. Those are 3 diseases we're looking at. We're also looking at a neurological disease, which is a rare disease, that we're looking at. And there's a novel cell therapy treatment for this particular disease. There's a lot of opportunities out there. Like I mentioned, like lupus, for example. One of the reasons why we're going after lupus is that if you look at it's a disproportionate from the disparity perspective. It disproportionately impacts women, oftentimes women of color. You look at the innovation profile, lack of innovation, really 2 new drugs in the last 60 years. And when you kind of start looking at opportunities like that, I give this as an example of how our strategy has played out and how we've identified some opportunities here. But we look at lupus and we've identified a number of areas, a number of products that we're in diligence or in discussions with a number of companies on that we feel like we can accelerate some some really novel and innovative therapies in that space.
And can you tell us who some of the members of your advisory board are?
No, absolutely. I think we've put together a strong team that not only allows us to source opportunities really well, as far as opportunities are attracted to or reach out to through some of our advisors and through myself, but they have the strong skill set to help us sort through diligence, ensure we're looking at the right products, innovative products, being able to diligence them appropriately from a financial, clinical, scientific standpoint. And so some of the advisors that we have on board, Valika Peoples-Dyer, she's amazing. She is former head of the FDA practice at a large global law firm, one of the top global firms in the world. Her experience with the FDA and access and connections with people there is invaluable given the strategy us are focusing on clinical stage products. We have Camille Ali Jackson, who is a serial entrepreneur, is a co-founder of a handful of biotech and specialty pharma companies, have raised a ton of money for those companies over the years. And it's just been a great business mind and business partner as we define our strategy, how we go about identifying opportunities and which products make most sense for us. We have Owen May, who owns his own investment bank in New York. He's been great with respect to identifying opportunities, as far as not necessarily identifying opportunities, but just thinking through exits up front. What does that look like for some of the deals that we're currently looking at, and thinking through some of the deals, thinking through some of the intricacies from the financing perspective. And then I think we have, in last one, and not the least, but Anindya Rao Chaudhary, former KPMG partner. He's critical with respect to our financial models and analysis. Great experience, worked with a number of small startups, and has some good experience in that space. So that's the crux of the advisory board that we have currently.
And so is there any part of your personal story and or the Syridex Bio story that you haven't shared with us that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think I'm really just excited about this opportunity. I think I'm really excited that I think we're coming in at a great time in the market for this type of fund. You know, you look at what's happening as far as the cost of healthcare. So more and more people are starting to see those costs continue to go up, which means you're going to get more and more focus from the government and other entities that are looking to address this issue. I think we're coming at a unique angle with respect to focusing on therapies, which is particularly important and differentiated in the market. And, you know, we've been successful to date as far as identifying some opportunities. Now we have to close some of these deals that we're in discussions with, but I'm excited that what we do has the ability to help move the needle in addressing health disparities. And, you know, from my perspective, you start to add products, add financial and financing to, you know, the areas where I think the greatest need are, you'll be able to close health inequities and hopefully address the whole health inequities globally and not just in the United States. So,
well, Squire, I want to thank you for sharing your story, and we wish you the best of luck on your journey going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.